Hello, guys and gals, me Mutahar. It's a late night tonight, and honestly, I was just sitting here wondering what compels a man to upload crimes onto the internet, make a fool of themselves, and possibly face years of their life in a prison, all because of internet clout. Well, ladies and gentlemen, you probably have obviously heard of Johnny Somali by now. I make quite a few videos on the guy. I've actually focused on quite a lot of IRL streamers, and the idea of nuisance streaming and IRL streaming is super duper interesting to me, okay? Just the fact that literally like 15 years ago, if you asked me, whoa, would somebody commit a crime and upload it to YouTube or any live streaming platform? The entire evidence, is up there for the world to see. I'd probably tell you no one's stupid enough to do that. But today, we live in a day and age where literally entire live stream platforms exist where people are just committing actual crimes. Allegedly, of course. I looked at things like Pump.fun, but generally speaking, the Johnny Somali side of the camp, the IRL streamers, were a concept that I would say existed around the time of like Ice Poseidon kind of starting this out, popularizing this meta. But back then, I think things were definitely a lot more tamed in. Nowadays, it seems like everybody's just committing crimes for no real reason. So to give you guys the ultimate TLDR on Johnny Somali over here, this man has been IRL live streaming in plenty of countries. Japan, for instance, where he made a fool of himself, basically got removed out of the country, and then immediately started to rain their terror all the way to other countries. They decided to go all the way to Israel, for instance, a country where everyone has to serve mandatory in their military service. And then, of course, Johnny goes from Israel all the way to South Korea, where people are also mandated to join the military, meaning that people are ready to kick your ass. Johnny was so annoying that at some point, actual South Korean, like Marines, we're talking UDT SEALs, started to join in. Motherfucking Vigil from Rainbow Six was walking around hunting Johnny Somali. There were allegedly bounties placed up to hunt this little twink around the internet, okay? And that is where you have severely fucked up. When you're not only drawing the ire of law enforcement agencies, but motherfuckers are hunting you down like it's Manhunt out there, okay? Like you got a 6-star wanted rating when it comes to being a fucking douche on the internet. Now, obviously, since all of it, Johnny has been stuck in South Korea. Because of ongoing legal cases, Johnny's passport has gone through a travel lock, meaning that Johnny is not allowed to leave South Korea until all of this legal bullshit is taken care of. Legal bullshit that allegedly, well, apparently can lock him up in prison for up to 5 years, okay, for various crimes. Things like obstruction of business. Things like the Minor Crimes Act, for instance, which we'll get into. There are even cases where he's allegedly played North Korean propaganda in South Korea, which is not something you should be doing. There's even cases where Johnny or somebody on their team allegedly produced deepfakes, which if you ever watched my video about, South Korea's Nth Room, one of the most evil cases of disgusting activity on the internet, you would know that if any country is fighting against deepfakes, it's definitely South Korea. So, before we go into it, where is Johnny right now? Well, if you think, man, maybe some synapses are firing. Maybe he's not making, videos on the internet. Maybe he's not streaming. You'd be dead wrong. Seems like Johnny is out there being a nuisance again. So I saw this clip the other day, and this clip, by the way, I might want to tell you might want to wear a hazmat suit because the levels of cringe that are going to be coming off of this are wild. So watch this with me.
They want to charge me for doing twerking on the subway. I'm allowed to twerk in public. Boom, 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 boom. I want to let's go, Korea! Korea #1! Yeah! Korea #1! Korea #1!
It's like watching like fucking ISIS like fucking kill a journalist or something, dude. It's like watching something that wild, dude. Oh, it's really difficult. It's really difficult to process how cringe this is. I can't even make it 30 seconds into it without wanting to fucking die. But I guess we might as well finish the remainder here.
Call the police! Let's go! Boom, 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 boom! I want you in my room.
You know, I can't make it a whole minute. I'm sorry, guys. I'm gonna tap out here. Now, what I love about this actual situation over here, too, is you've got a bunch of construction workers just doing their job over here. There's a couple, like, you know, people walking around this location. You know, just some passerbys minding their own business. And, you know, South Korea is a very homogenized country. Like, you know, it's a very racially homogenized. There's not a lot of multiculturalism like there is in North America or Europe or Western countries. So this might be the first experience someone in this country has ever had with a black guy or a Somalian or anything of that nature. And if this is what they see, let me tell you, there's gonna be some clan ass discussions. You're gonna have people speak like David fucking Duke at the dinner table after tonight, which again, we'll get to later, okay? But anyways, if you're noticing very carefully, this is on a brand new live streaming platform that I've never heard of until I researched this specific case, party.com. Now, I decided to go to check out what this live streaming platform could be. Maybe it's amazing. Maybe it's blowing my mind. And of course, this live stream platform is filled with gaming, crypto, music, IRL, casinos. Yeah, it's one of those Web3 crypto-like streaming platforms. Maybe it's not as degenerate as Pump.fun at its infancy, but of course you can see it's got some crazy content creators. People like Sneeko, for instance, Mr. Based Forever, Movlogs, World of T-Shirts 2001. So you all can experience your degenerate alcoholism right here in 4K HDR. I don't even know if it streams that way, but you get the idea. You know, you've also got brilliant creators like Jack, let me rip my McLaren under the highway, Doherty. So all of the wildest characters, the Avengers of fucking brain damage, are showing up ready to entertain the audience. Now, of course, it's not the only thing on this platform. There's some genuinely cool things. You know, people who are playing some standard games like Skyrim. In amongst, you know, talking about Censorship Sucks Roundtable Radio, Paranormal Intelligence Agency radio show. So look, moral of the story, it seems like it's one of those live streaming platforms where people go to whenever they get banned off all the mainstream stuff. So generally speaking, you know, loose TOSs, most of the actual user base over here has already been banned once, twice, maybe indefinitely on most mainstream services. This is kind of like the refugee camp for places you go to when you've just fucking completely been banned from every normal website. And this creates almost like a feedback loop on these platforms. Like you just attract the people that are always one-upping each other in degeneracy, okay? One day we're gonna witness somebody commit a fucking Dexter-style serial killing on this platform. And it's just gonna be normal at that point, okay? Because the internet's gonna be that desensitized to insane shit. Now, Johnny Somali has fucked himself to the point where multiple crimes and acts are being sort of applied to him. Now, remember, all of these things are allegations on Johnny Somali. Again, until a court of law proves this to be definitive, all of these are, of course, allegations. So I want to stress that as much as I can, okay, for legal sake. Now, I was looking more into the laws regarding the Republic of Korea, and some of the laws that Johnny was getting into were involving the Minor Offenses Act, okay? So for anybody that doesn't know the Minor Offenses Act, the purpose of this act is to protect the freedoms and rights of citizens and to contribute to maintaining good order by providing for matters necessary for categorizing and punishing minor offenses, okay? So what kind of minor offenses are we talking about? Okay, we're talking about breaking into empty houses, okay? Any person that breaks into an uninhabited or abandoned house, carrying concealed weapons such as a knife, steel rod, or hacksaw. You notice how they haven't mentioned firearms here? Because that is a very major offense, obviously in most East Asian countries. I think most Asian countries in general. Preparation for violence. Any person who engages in preparatory conduct in a plan to inflict a physical injury on another person. So no Yakuza ass involvements where you're like premeditating an ass beating on the streets, I guess. And of course, sometimes, you know, are you financially challenged? Well, if you ever think of begging as of the 18th section, any person who makes unjust enrichment by forcing another person to beg, or any person who interferes with or bothers passing of other persons by begging at a public place. And of course, they put that alongside the lighting of fires. So yeah, arson, minor arson maybe, and begging. You put that all in the same court, all in the same court. Yeah, I never really usually agree with wild laws like this sometimes, like super broad stuff, but it kind of shows you a sign, right? Like South Korea is a nation that pretty much, like most East Asian countries, if you've ever been to places like this, values order, okay? If you're not a fucking normal person, if you're not if you're not somebody that just like blends in and contributes to public order, they will make an example out of you, which is exactly what appears to be making out of, Johnny Somali. So the couple lawyers that I have known and the couple content creators that I know that have been to South Korea to witness this shit firsthand, because for them, Johnny Somali is not a occasional viewed by me, but more of like a part of their actual content, have actually been to the actual courtrooms and have actually reported more so on Johnny's stupid antics. So when Johnny showed up to a courtroom, you might be wondering, maybe, just maybe he got his shit together. Maybe he at least wore a suit, was at least somewhat respectful. According to Legal Mindset, Ramsey's first day of trial just concluded. He was 1 hour late. Showed up late to one of my court battles, ooh boy, and came in with his roommate, Hank. I want to imagine that's like Hank Hill for a second. You got like Hank Hill showing up with him. All right. Both Ramsey's lawyer and Ramsey had no idea about the new charges. So yeah, when your lawyer gets ambushed at a hearing with new charges, new shit they haven't done it, I'm surprised the lawyer is still actually representing this guy. I'm sure it has to be like a fucking public defender. There's no way Johnny has the money to afford actual good legal representation. This is some poor... I feel so bad for the public defender involved in this story, or any lawyer actually. It doesn't even have to be a public defender. If you're a lawyer for this moron, I feel bad for you. So they pushed the next trial date for 3 weeks. Johnny pled guilty to all other charges. But what was important about it too is Ramsey was also clearly wearing Hank's white suit, which was wildly oversized but had an ebony ivory vibe going on with Hank's black suit. He was also told twice to take off his MAGA hat. So forget the idea of the MAGA hat, that's just, Johnny as a character. When you're wearing hats, beanies, hoodies into a fucking courtroom, you're stupid. You're brain dead. So all in all, Korean legal experts, because now this is not just internet goofball stuff. This is a serious case in South Korea, okay? We're talking actual legal, discussion is being made. This guy is looking to be made an example of. So in North Korean legal circles, it's apparently now a situation where he could face up to 10 years in a prison cell in South Korea. Which, by the way, from all things I've researched, is not an amazing time, okay? I mean, prison itself is not a fun time, but this isn't like one of those super rehabilitating friendly prisons. This is where Johnny is going to be made an example of. If reality hasn't set into this idiot yet, it will soon enough when he has to live a very orderly life, something that he clearly has not done so far, and will actually have to take some real shit in an actual Asian prison. Not a fucking fun time. And if you think that they're not going to fucking turn Johnny into a little twink marriaged bitch inside prison, you'd be surprised. Now, the website, party.com, you might be wondering, whoa, they actually did the right thing and suspended him from streaming, right? Only until they actually had to unsuspend him around 24 hours later. So there were some accusations that maybe the live streaming platform was fucking deleting actual evidence. So apparently he came back. He's now suddenly going to come back and make content on this fucking crypto streaming platform. But yeah, it's just kind of insane, right? He's constantly shooting himself in the foot. Shooting yourself in the foot isn't really the best way to put it, because that implies, somebody is tactically putting fucking holes and turning their foot into Swiss cheese. This is more of a situation as this guy is jumping in to a wood chipper. It is total damage, and there is no walking away from it, okay? If Johnny somehow doesn't go into jail time, if Johnny somehow gets all these charges dropped, it will be an actual proof of God, okay? It literally will take divine intervention to make sure this guy doesn't actually pay for his crimes, which is what makes his story so satisfying. Like, I have been one of those people where I've seen nuisance streaming, right? Like, you know, it used to be years ago we saw people like Logan Paul make a fool of themselves in Japan. And you know what? There probably should have been some actual action, but Logan Paul at the time even actually apologized. And there was some level of actual, like, remorse, and like the semblance existed. But in terms of Johnny, he clearly doesn't care, and it doesn't really matter for him, I guess. This guy might be like the most extreme wild troll in the sense that everything is worth it to this guy. There's only one person that I've seen fuck up this hard, and that might be the story of Arab Andy, the man that played an actual bomb sound effect in a public university. Not exactly a great thing to be doing. The guy went to jail for it, the guy paid the price, and it's one of those things where I'm sure in that case he may never actually redo that mistake one more time. But it's really satisfying, like as a person who watches this shit with morbid curiosity, to finally at least see some actual punishment doled out to idiots like this. Now, I will remember a couple, like, months ago when I was talking about Johnny in the first place, I did show, like, this frame, for instance, where Johnny is allegedly sharing a deep fake produced of him and another streamer. And now I'm blurring her out just because, you know, obviously it's her. I'm just doing it for legal sake over here, obviously. But the reality here, the point is, this was produced, and if this was distributed by Johnny, and it's provably so by Johnny, again, then this is a serious scenario where Johnny could actually fall into a massive problem with South Korea's deepfake laws. Now, obviously, if you produce deepfake, I want to say content that goes against the consent of someone, that is a major no-no in South Korea, and this comes with a serious, mandatory sentence of actual jail time, which I don't know if he expected it to happen or not. Maybe he was just posting a meme, but I don't know if, like, at this point it's like mental illness or just stupidity. Because Johnny is absolutely, for lack of any better words, fucked in this situation. And if you are somebody that is a IRL streamer considering being this degenerate, then this is one of those mistakes that you probably should never have made. All right? But that goes without saying. Yeah, Johnny, if he falls underneath this law, and I've studied this deepfake law like crazy, obviously, for previous videos, it's never going to look too good for him, and you don't have to be a lawyer to know this. Now, the thing about this is like, ultimately, for me, the important part about videos like this is looking at what this means in the greater picture, right? Because honestly, Johnny Somali by himself is not worth the video. The actions that Johnny and plenty of other nuisance creators like him do ultimately hurt the actual travel industry for everyone involved. For instance, going to Japan is honestly like one of the best experiences anybody can have. It's really like one of the most unique places in the world, as is South Korea, as is really any part. But traveling is not something that is a right for everybody. For instance, when you travel, you often have to get a passport, and the passport is a privilege, not a right, okay? No country necessarily is the one that no country is ever required to take anybody in. You always have to go get visas. There are agreements sometimes between countries where you can go back and forth as long as you have a passport for a certain amount of time. There are a lot of rules when it comes to traveling, but make no mistake, going to countries is not a fucking right. You know, I feel like anytime a passport gets given out, especially at all, we should restrict idiots like Johnny Somali, even idiots that make a fool of themselves. Like, I'm sorry to say, if you're an American person or even a Canadian, you know, when I got my Canadian passport, I basically, in a way, agreed to represent Canada in the entire, like, world, okay? So if I show my Canadian passport when I'm flying to, like, Japan, I am basically representing the fucking great white north when I go out there. If I get arrested, if I make a fool of myself, if I spread my cheeks, shit all over the walls, and smear it all over people and get busted for it, God forbid, that means I am not only embarrassing myself, but I'm embarrassing my own country. And at that point, I honestly would not expect Canada to help me out legally. I would not even want Canada to even renew my passport ever. And I feel like the same shit should happen over here. So one of the theories that I kind of have with Johnny Somali being this fucking idiot right now is that I feel like he's just kind of stacking charges on charges on charges on charges. Because I really feel like he wants to make it to a point where, like, enacting any form of justice is going to be such a chore to the country that they might even just consider deporting him all the way back to like America and never allowing entry into something like South Korea. But ultimately, I think with all of the legal work spent on this and the amount of attention it's raised in mainstream circles even, I don't think any country now, especially South Korea, is going to let him go without at least making an example so other streamers who come to their country can realize you may lose a decade of your life if you make a mistake and absolutely embarrass yourself in this country and harm the people around you, by the way. One of the things that I saw about this too, the most interesting part about all of this is like, this is such a huge problem in like East Asian countries that there's even like terms dubbed sushi terror, for instance. For anybody that doesn't know what sushi terrorism is, it's basically a set of pranks or behaviors in countries like Japan, where if you ever been to like a conveyor belt sushi restaurant, like where your food just comes out in a belt, you take it off the belt and you pay for everything afterwards. Basically what some douchebags would do was they would like lick the soy sauce bottles. They would basically expose and biologically damage the food by licking it, by tainting it. And this would be such an issue that obviously people were outraged, right? People had to go to arrest. I mean, imagine. It makes me sick thinking about it. That you're like eating somebody's boogers or like cum or like, spit anytime you like chew down on food. I mean, it's seriously like it's one of those things where the more and more you think about it, the less and less you want to go out to restaurants and eat. So this level of sushi terrorism obviously sparks some real public fear. It fucking ruins businesses. And obviously it's not something you ever want in your country. Now, it's a situation that I believe is legal everywhere. Like if you start like spitting around onto food, like you open up a bottle of orange juice in a grocery store and like spit into it and put it back on the shelf, you can go to jail for that, okay? There's actual jail for that stuff. Now, when it comes to, again, Johnny Somali, I don't think the story is going to be done anytime soon. And honestly, the last update that I'll probably ever make onto this video is popping off the confetti, setting off the fireworks, when I found out this idiot is going to actually be in jail for quite a few years. I expect, personally, and I'm not a betting man, this guy will probably do 5 years at least in a jail cell in South Korea, which should be enough time for you to actually realize that none of this was worth it. I don't think Johnny is making a crazy amount of money by doing this, and I don't think any of that is going to matter later on. Johnny's future prospects are completely screwed when now he has become an international joke when it comes to his behavior on the internet. This is like one example where it's like people will like laugh alongside a troll until the troll eventually realizes that, oh my God, I have absolutely fucked my life up. And you know what? In a situation like that, I am here purely to laugh at it and basically create a video in reminding everyone that if you're ever considering being a douchebag in public, remember there's very serious consequences. And you're about to see one dumb fuck end up paying for it. Ladies and gentlemen, if you like what you saw, please like, comment, and subscribe. Dislike if you dislike it. I am out.